things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner, is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner, is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson with Reality Shifters and the International Mandela Effect Conference, and you're now listening to Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
Hello.
Introducing
Lasers.
Hello.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light, and you're now listening to Dark Wolf's Den.
Are ghosts real?
We had 1,000 hours of continuous communication with the spirit world.
Does time travel actually exist?
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines.
You know, sometimes I wonder about reincarnation. Don't you?
A 4-year-old boy in Adelaide, Australia, has told his parents that he used to be Britain's Princess Diana.
What would happen if the world found out that aliens were real?
I didn't say disclosure would be easy, but what is the alternative?
To establish a space force as the 6th branch
of the armed forces.
We have so many questions and yet so little time, so to have you here, the pleasure is all mine.
Coming to you from a secret mountain cave, hidden deep within the Idaho wilderness, this is the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to another episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday, November 4th, 2020, and tonight we're going to talk about curses. That's right. We talked pretty much a whole month about different types of curses through Spooktober. Now we're going to focus in on what exactly they are and how many different types exist. So sit right there, grab something to snack on, grab a warm blanket, curl up and enjoy as we talk about curses. November 4th, 2020, right here on the Dark Wolf's Den Show, exclusively on Ripon Common Sense Radio. But first, today in history. You know, guys, a lot of times here on the show we get a lot of synchronicities, especially in the Today in History. Today is no different. Ladies and gentlemen, on this day in 1922, Howard Carter discovers the tomb of Tutankhamun in Egypt. And we'll hear about Howard's experience here in just a couple moments. But that is today's Today in History. Before we get started tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have a couple announcements to make. First, we have a couple shout-outs that have come in on the red button line, starting out with our buddy Big D.
My life, she's a queen once again. Congratulations to my life on the throne. It is not a king. It is not a fantastic fun king. It is a fantastic fun queen.
Thank you, Big D, and congratulations to My Life DIY on being the fantastic fun king queen 2 months in a row. She took the crown the other night for those who weren't here for AJ's Fantastic Fun Show, so congratulations once again to My Life DIY. I'm sure she's extremely grateful and thankful for that shout out. And as a matter of fact, speaking of being thankful, we were talking in the Backstage Lounge the other night about something to do for the month of November. And somebody, our friend Ash, came up with Never Nothing November. And it makes so much sense. I know you guys are scratching your heads. What do you mean, never nothing? That don't make any sense. Actually, it does. When you're asked, what are you thankful for? The answer is never nothing, right? It's never nothing. It's always something. You're always thankful for something. And that's what I want to know. I want to hear what you're thankful for. So what you need to do is go to the riponrabbithole.com, RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. Go down to the bottom of every page. You're going to find a big red button that says record. Select that button and give us a recording of what you're thankful for, and we will put them on the air. As a matter of fact, we have a couple to get this month kicked off right. That's right. So this is the first segment, ladies and gentlemen, of Never Nothing November. What are you thankful for? First up, we have Propagate This Light.
This is Propagate This Light. A few of the things that I'm thankful for is what I'm about to mention. One of which is having God love there that loves us all. I'm thankful for God. I'm definitely thankful for being on the intro to Dark Wolf's Den Show. I'm definitely thankful that I have followers on my channel as well. And I'm thankful that you're even able to listen to me right now, and I'm even able to be here right now. Thank you.
And thank you, Propagate This Light. And we are very thankful for that shout out you sent to us in the very beginning. It fits that intro so amazingly, and we're proud to have that included in there. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have the fantastic fun queen herself, My Life DIY.
This is My Life DIY, and I am just so thankful for so much in my life, but revolving around this subject, this topic, I'm thankful to Moneybag 73, 76 for some of us. Without him, I would have never found the Ripon Rabbit Hole show, and without finding the Ripon Rabbit Hole show, I would have never found the VIP Lounge. So thanks to Moneybags and AJ for the constant entertainment and knowledge and being able to make some real new friends.
Once again, that is My Life DIY, and I have to kind of parrot what she just said there. I'm also very thankful for Moneybags and AJ the Ripon Rabbit and this network and the opportunities we've had on this network, because if not for Moneybags, none of us would have known this even existed. So I second that, My Life. Also, on the list, we have the person who came up with Never Nothing November to begin with. Ladies and gentlemen, Ash.
Hi, my name is Ash. I am thankful for Art Bell Archives in Ripon Rabbit Hole because they have taught me to always find the light in things, and they have ensured me that I'm not going insane. And I love the paranormal, and they have taught me a lot about that. And it's really nice to find a place that I can relate to and find a actual family. So I am very thankful for everyone that Arthur Bell has inspired and everyone at Ripon Rabbit Hole.
And thank you, Ash. We are incredibly thankful for this suggestion because it's an absolutely brilliant suggestion. And yes, Art Bell was an absolutely amazing talk show host, and he will always be remembered. And thank you once again, AJ, for giving us this opportunity. I also second that myself. And we like to hear what you guys are thankful for, right? What are you thankful for this November? Just go ahead to the riponrabbithole.com, RIPONRABBITHOLE.com, and scroll down to the bottom where you find that big red record button. Hit that button. You're going to get 30 seconds of recording time to record us a greeting to let us know what you're thankful for, and we'll put them on every week through the month of November for Never Nothing November segment. So, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for being a part of this. We thank you for every week coming and hanging out with us, and we just cannot thank you enough and let you know we're so happy to be able to do these shows for you every week. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get on with the topic. And you guys know I love it when the fact of the day matches up with the actual topic, and this is no different. The synchronicities that happen around here are so crazy. Another crazy thing is curses, right? Seriously though, we did almost a month of a study on curses through Spooktober, didn't we? From the werewolves to the vampires to every time we came up with the topic, it seemed like curses was involved some way or the other. But you know, they're across a lot of different ideas and religions and cultures, and you find curses pretty much everywhere, including and especially the Christian lore. That's right, the Judeo-Christian lore has quite a few things to say about curses. As a matter of fact, one curse that it talks about is called the generational curse. And it turns out science actually backed this. So this is the idea that if I do something that's really bad sin, I guess, or curse, or get cursed by somebody, you know, for doing something bad or doing something wrong. Somebody lays a curse on me. It could go down generation after generation. So my great-great-great-great-grandchildren could have this same curse through the family line. This is called a generational curse. And it's actually quite prevalent and quite well known. And actually science backs this up amazingly. Check this out.
What science has now learned, and it's so fascinating, is that the choices we make in life will alter how our genes are expressed. This is big. People need to really sit up and pay attention to this, because science is now confirming scripture. And in lectures that I do, I often ask the audience, which is more scientifically accurate, the Bible or Charles Darwin? Well, guess what? It's the Bible. Darwin hypothesized that it was mutation over millions of years that caused his finches to have different beaks. Science has actually now proved it's epigenetic modification.
And could you give us a little description of what epigenetics is?
Epigenetics, the instructions sitting above the genome, telling the genes how to express themselves, which are changed based on experience.
So it's basically the switchboard that decides what genes are turned on and what genes are turned off at any given moment.
What we go through in life, the foods that we eat, the choices we make, the environment in which we live will actually alter the genes in telling which genes to turn on and which genes to turn off.
So everything around us, from the frequencies to the environment to what we eat, everything about our life determines at any given time what genes are turned on and what genes are turned off. That means that they can change. Which genes turned on or off can change in time.
What we know about genetics and addiction is that behaviors, sensations, input into the brain will use the DNA to change how the cell responds. And basically what happens is that genes are turned off or turned on based on what that response is. While the DNA doesn't change, the expression does.
And that right there is huge. The DNA does not change, but how the DNA is expressed does change.
So the ability to be aware of environment, ability to respond may be genetically coded, but when we begin changing it, the term we use is epigenetically. When we change how that's expressed, we change the enzymes that are made, we change the response of the cell, and that change becomes a part of the genetic expression.
And that's all well and good, but you're probably wondering, how does this connect to curses, and especially the generational curse that we brought up, right? Well, here's exactly how.
When we have kids, we not only give the sequence to our kids, we will pass along the instructions 2 and 3 generations down. And so if we become addicted to stuff, we can pass along to our kids gene constellations that make them more vulnerable to addictions. Conversely, if we get victories over stuff, we can actually pass on advantages.
Now, this is really intriguing to me because by all rights, I should be a 4th generation drunk, yet me and alcohol don't get along that well, so I'm not really a drinker by any means at all. So that gene is actually displayed differently in me than it has in the previous generations that I have had in my family line. So that is really interesting to me indeed.
There's good animal evidence that that change in expression can be transmitted to the offspring. Those enzymes, those mechanisms, those genes that are turned off may also be turned off in the next generation.
So we can pass along both positive things in our life and or negative depending on the choices we make in life. And so the Bible is actually more scientifically accurate than Charles Darwin, because we do pass down to our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren the experiences that we go through in life based on the epigenetic modifications. They will get not only our genes, but the instructions on how those genes are expressed. Many adolescents will say things like, hey, it's my body, I can do what I want. Only if you're never going to have kids. If you're going to have kids, it's not only your body, it's your kids, your grandkids, and your great-grandkids' body too, so be careful what you do with it.
And indeed, wise words. But it really is interesting though, isn't it? Everything you do in your body actually has an impact on the generations that go forward. And that might explain why kids are coming out of the womb now able to operate a cell phone. That still just blows my mind how young they are able to operate these things. But again, that's a whole nother thing. Did you know that Jesus and the Bible actually cursed a fig tree? That's right. This is an interesting story here.
Now the next day, as they went out from Bethany, he was hungry. After noticing in the distance a fig tree with leaves, he went to see if he could find any fruit on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs.
And he, in this case, of course, being Jesus.
He said to it, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And his disciples heard it. Then they came to Jerusalem. Jesus entered the temple area and began to drive out those who were selling and buying in the temple courts. He turned over the tables of money changers and the chairs of those selling doves, and he would not permit anyone to carry merchandise through the temple courts. Then he began to teach them and said, "Is it not written, 'My house will be called a house of prayer for all nations'? But you have turned it into a den of robbers."
Honestly, this is one of my favorite scenes from the Bible.
The chief priests and the experts in the law heard it, and they considered how they could assassinate him, for they feared him, because the whole crowd was amazed by his teaching. When evening came, Jesus and his disciples went out of the city. In the morning, as they passed by, they saw the fig tree withered from the roots. Peter remembered and said to him, "Rabbi, look! The fig tree you cursed has withered." Jesus said to them, "Have faith in God. I tell you the truth. If someone says to this mountain, 'Be lifted up and thrown into the sea,' and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will happen, it will be done for him."
And I think that's really important when it comes to these curses because it's thought form. If you really truly believe that it's going to happen, if you have faith that it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You can attribute it to whatever entity or deity you would like, but it is going to happen. At least that's the belief. And a lot of these curses might actually work just that way. And as we know, curses aren't just in the Judeo-Christian culture. Oh no, there's many, many cultures around the world that speak about curses. Take, for instance, the African hoodoo that present us with the jinx and crossed conditions, as well as a form of foot track magic, which was used by Ramen Deep, whereby cursed objects are laid in the path of victims and activated when the victim walks over it. So that's kind of scary. Be careful what you step over, right? Never know when you might be stepping into a curse. Another really popular one comes from the Middle East. You guys may have heard this one before. This is from the Middle East and Mediterranean culture and is the source of a lot of belief of curses, and that is the evil eye.
Now, we've all been there. An unexpected or unexplained bout of ill health, persistent stroke of bad luck, a sharp decline in fortune, an unexpected job loss, accidents, or any other calamity. Now, this could all be just a coincidence or bad luck, but to many cultures around the world, this could also be something much, much worse. It could be the curse of the evil eye.
And for those that recognize this voice, that is Mikey Chin from Beyond Science. Tell us, Mikey, about the curse of the evil eye.
For centuries, the so-called malicious effects of the evil eye have continued to evoke a sense of fear among us mere mortals, and the universal belief that the evil eye is potent enough to bring about instant misfortune or injury is one that transcends civilizations, tribes, cultures, religions, countries, and even continents. Thus, you will find notable mention of this malevolent gaze in the ancient Greek and Roman texts, in rabbinic literature, and also in the Bible and the Quran. The concept of the evil eye was widely prevalent among the early Mediterranean and Asian tribes, deeply embedded in the ancient Egyptian culture, and equally well known during the times of the Roman Empire. Even today, the curse of the eye is as dreaded in Asia, the Middle East, and Africa as it is looked upon with trepidation in the Americas and Europe. Not to forget its long-standing symbolism in almost all major religions of the world, including Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, and Buddhism,
as well as many secret societies, and some even believe that that is the eye that is portrayed on the back of the dollar bill.
So what is the mystery behind the evil eye, and how did it come to exert such a powerful hold on our imagination? So let's dig into a bit about how this all got started. Now, the popular concept of the evil eye, or the dirty look, is an age-old one, with origins in the great civilizations of antiquity. Some believe that the first documented proof of this notion can be traced to the Mesopotamian civilization, which saw the recording of the evil eye on clay tablets in the form of cuneiform inscription.
And once again, our old friends, the Mesopotamians, come up.
Another school of thought believes that the human race's conviction in the curse of the evil eye dates back to the classical antiquity, with noteworthy references from ancient Greek and Roman philosophers, poets, writers, and authors such as Plato and Pliny the Elder. Also, the king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedonia, Alexander the Great, is said to have been instrumental in propagating the idea of the evil eye throughout the Near East, while the European colonists and West Asian immigrants are believed to have been responsible for for introducing the concept in the Americas. But regardless of the varying thoughts about when and how the belief in the evil eye came into being and spread its tentacles across the globe, it is evident that this notion is an antique one that has been handed down from one generation to another across geographies, religions, and cultures.
And when I have something that shows up across history along all the continents, all the cultures, all that kind of stuff, my old ears perk right up and I want to hear what this is all about. So tell us, Mikey, what is the big deal about the evil eye?
Well, it is the special power of the eyes that underpins the propagation of the thought that the human eyes are endowed with the incredible ability to cast a harmful spell, especially when the spell is directed with emotions such as scorn and envy. The power of the eye contact is long established, with its impact ranging from plain capturing of one's attention and laying the grounds for a deeply personal connection to the unnerving probability of wielding significant control over one's thoughts and emotions. Apart from the mythologies that revolve around the evil eye's so-called underlying malice, the Greek biographer Plutarch attempted to rationalize the fear of this magical glare through a scientific explanation. He attributed the source of one's release of negative energies to his or her eyes that acted as a gateway to one's soul.
And of course, that's something we've all heard many, many times, is the eyes are the gateways to the soul. But it could be just a little bit more than that. It could be, like we said a moment ago, the thought forms that are being expressed emotionally or energetically towards another person. So if you're staring at somebody with that hatred and that evil thoughts and just real bunch of negativity headed towards them, and all of a sudden they start having negative things, that could be the effect of these thought forms and or this evil eye and or this curse.
Now, the curse of the evil eye can manifest itself in various forms, such as an injury, illness, an overall decline in one's well-being and prosperity, and even death. Often, the curse is cast when a person is unguarded or unaware, making it difficult for one to take preventive measures to safeguard himself or herself against the malicious intent of the eye. Moreover, the belief of the curse of the eye can also inflict harm on one's loved ones and livestock, makes the evil eye more fearsome for people worldwide.
So not only can it affect you, it can affect everything around you, supposedly.
There are many stories about how cattle and children died, plants and trees perished, cows failed to produce milk, and more, all because they were subjected to a spiteful glare. Now, there might be a lot of reasons for someone to give someone else the evil eye or the stink eye, but most people believe that the evil eye is cast by somebody when they are jealous or envious. For example, one's enviable success, wealth, happiness, and beauty can quickly become the cause of envy for others, at times to such an extent that it invites a maliciously intended stare or gaze, capable of ruining all the prosperity and good fortune of the target.
That's exactly why I didn't tell but like 3 people when I moved across the country, just to make sure I didn't have a lot of negativity stopping me or trying to mess with me as I moved. And it helped a lot, actually, because I had the most smooth travels I think I've ever had. That was absolutely great. So I really do see a little something to this. And so did the ancient Egyptians, right? We've heard the Egyptians mentioned a couple times. They spoke of the evil eye, and they also had the famous curse of the Pharaoh. That's right. Our Today in History earlier was about Mr. Howard Carter and how he found the Tutankhamun on this day in 1922, wasn't it? Something along those lines. But anyway, that was today's Today in History, right? So we're gonna go into this now because there's a little bit more to this story than most people tell. Usually when you hear about Tut and Howard Carter, you hear a lot about how it was cursed and there was this a lot of mysticism to the story, right? Well, let's go ahead and see if we can't find a little bit of truth amongst the craziness when it comes to this story.
The supposed deadly curse of Tutankhamun was said to have claimed more than 20 lives. However, the truth of this story is questionable. In the decades which have followed, many have highlighted the resentment of newspapers at the time, who felt snubbed that Howard Carter had sold exclusive media rights regarding the discovery of Tutankhamun to the Times of London. Vindictive, the media spun every tragedy which could in whatever small way, be linked to the boy pharaoh and his so-called evil curse.
So it looks like this yellow journalism and this fake news media, if you will, isn't something new at all. As a matter of fact, it's been going on for a lot longer than people realize. And this is another classic case of just that, because people read the newspapers and believe everything they read without questioning. And around here, we like to question everything, don't we? This is the reason that we question everything, because then you suddenly find there's a little kernel of truth that's been overlooked.
Not only that, contrary to popular belief, there was no written curse to be found on King Tut's tomb.
That definitely makes for an issue of a curse when there's no curse there to begin with.
The only tenuous link is the dubious account of a scarab bracelet found on a mummified hand in the tomb. It is said to have been inscribed with the words, "Cursed be he who moves my body, to him shall come fire, water, and pestilence." This bracelet was later gifted to Sir Bruce Ingham, whose house subsequently burned down, with his land being flooded during the reconstruction. There is no explanation for this.
Okay, here we go, a cursed object. That makes sense.
However, the account is once again corrupted with inconsistencies, with its supposed inscription having at least 2 different possible wordings. Undoubtedly, this story is suspect. It must also be noted that out of the 58 people involved in the excavation of Tut's tomb, only 8 died within the first 12 years, with many living to reach a ripe old age. Carter himself, the lead archaeologist of the excavation, did not die until 17 years later at the age of 64.
Which is why we must always be careful what we believe and what we read, because if we don't research, we can be taken by just listening to other people. A lot of people know of the King Tut's tomb curse, but very few people know that it was just a fake news article run by a media that is still today questionable at best. But I don't want to jump on that soapbox. I will get a little bit uppity when we start talking about stuff like that. And there's a reason I only talk about paranormal, right? And tonight's paranormal topic being curses. There's one more story about an Egyptian curse that you guys might actually be interested in, because this one hasn't been debunked.
William John Warner, also known as Count Louis Amon, was an eccentric Irish astrologer and occult figure of the early 20th century. Before he rose to fame, sometime in the 1890s, he toured across Egypt. During his travels, he met with a sheikh who was infirmed with malaria. As Warner had acquired some expertise in medicine, he was able to cure him. Whilst the sheikh recovered, he and Warner became close friends. It was upon learning of Warner's interest in the occult that the sheikh thought of the perfect reward to give him for having cured his malaria: a mummified hand. If ever there was such a thing as an ordinary mummified hand,
the answer to that is no. No, there's no such a thing as an ordinary mummified hand, in my opinion.
This gift was by no means that. No, this hand had belonged to the daughter of a heretical pharaoh, presumably Akhenaten.
Actually, the most heretical of all of the pharaohs of Egypt, because he took the pantheon of gods and tried to turn them into the worship of one single sun god. And of course, that didn't bode well for Akhenaten, and especially when it came to the politicians, things like that. The religions didn't like changing their pantheon all of a sudden. And he was not the best accepted of the rulers of Egypt, as you heard there.
She had fervently defied her father's religious views.
I must warn you, for this next part, it does get a little sensitive, and listener discretion is advised.
And he, knowing his God's law must be upheld above all else, had his daughter raped and killed. As a further insult, the pharaoh had her hand cut off by priests and buried separately, for she had converted to the old religion, which held that the body must be intact so as to be able to enter paradise in the afterlife.
So he basically made it where she could not enter either side of heaven, whether it be his belief or the old belief.
The sheikh claimed that for over 1,000 years his tribe had held the hand in their possession, and so it was that the gift was given. For the next 30 years, it would remain in Warner's hands. It was in 1922 that Warner noticed something peculiar. The mummified hand was softening, with what seemed to be fresh blood running through new veins. Terrified, Warner decided to dispose of the Sheikh's macabre gift. He determined that, on All Hallows' Eve, the night when the veil between the world of the living and the dead was at its thinnest, he would burn the pharaoh's daughter's hand. With the mummified hand engulfed in the heat of the fire, Warner read from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. It was then that a great wind rushed through the house and opened the door to his study. Emerging from the darkness was the ghostly figure of an Egyptian princess dressed in royal finery. She walked towards the fire and extended out her stump of an arm. She had no hand, just the pitiful remnants of a wrist. Taking these remnants, she cast them into the fire to burn alongside her hand. Then the spectre vanished, and so did the hand.
That story gives me the creeps and the chills every single time I hear it. And thank you to the paranormal scholar once again. We use her work over here quite a bit, and we really appreciate it. She does a really great job. So if you guys have a chance, I definitely suggest to go check that out. That is just a personal shout out from me to them. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got to go ahead and take a network break right here. So we will be right back with the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den show, where we're going to talk about a lot more curses, including cursed objects, right after these messages. Don't you touch that dial.
We got to stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Sex in the City? Nope. Interview with a Vampire? Nope. If you build it, they will come? Febreze? Tweeze in the middle? Wrong again. Depends. Nope. Welcome to the Twilight Zone, my friends. A phenomenon known as the Mandela Effect. You may have heard of it. You may want to not neglect unbecoming, awake, and spiritually inclined. So sit back, relax, while I blow your mind. Take the thumb off the cell, stop following the sheep. Down the rabbit hole we go. Are you ready for that leap? The Zapruder film, #JFK. I looked at the footage and I said, what the hey? How come there are 6 people in that dang car? Stretch limo, for me, this was all too bizarre. A glass behind the driver, no way, Jose. I remember in the car, my mind was in total disarray. Trying to make sense of what I was seeing, what I was witnessing. Didn't connect with my inner being. A second woman in the car for me was only the first lady. Do you smell what the rock is cooking? All this seemed kinda shady. Berenstein Bears. Nope. Shazam? Sinbad? Not in this reality. Good lord. An awakening. Was it all a revelation? The naysayers and skeptics call it confabulation. They say we misremembered and call us bat crazy. Did you smoke a doob? Maybe that's why it's a little bit hazy. Unless you experience it, you'll never know. But enough of that. On with this Mandela Effect flow. Mandela Effect in the house. What in the world happened to Ed McMahon? In this reality, Publishers Clearinghouse was not a fan. Never the spokesperson, but we remember it clear as day. McMahon holding that check while the winner yelled out, yay! American Family Publishers, never heard of them until now. This Mandela Effect has me raising the people's eyebrow. So many theories on what it could be. Have you ever heard of CERN and the LHC? Luke, I am your father. Nope. Sally Fields? Nope, wrong again. That stands for the Large Hadron Collider. I thought I would mention. You know, the machine that opens up portals into different dimensions? You're probably thinking that this is all science fiction, but you gotta think outside the box and have no restrictions. Alternate realities and parallel dimensions. Okay, I get some of your apprehensions. Could this all be a spiritual evolution because the human race has grown tired of this toxic pollution? Mandela effect in the house. No, you're not going crazy. Some people, they just don't understand. That's just the way it is. You know? Stay strong, my friends. That's just the way it is. Dolly has no braces? Are you serious? Good lord. Joel Osteen. Oh wait, Joel Osteen. So what the heck happened to the owl? Oh my gosh. Oh, this is definitely the Twilight Zone. This is crazy. Anyhow.
Hi guys, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit. Are you enjoying the show so far? I know I am. Even though we are in the midst of major technical difficulties, we're trying to hide it the best we can from you. Unfortunately, I have no access to my studio at this moment, and I'm coming to you remotely, live from my laptop. Unfortunately, there has been a default downfall of our main system tonight, and I am working the best that I can to get it resolved and get us back in the way that we traditionally are. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen tonight. So therefore, we're not going to hear any music behind my voice, and you're just going to hear me talk playing into a cheap $2 microphone that allows me to transmit my voice to you. So I apologize for our lack in production value, but I assure you we will correct the issue as quickly as possible and return back now to Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Tossing it back to you, Jerry, live here on Ripon Common Sense Radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, the edge of your seat, or anywhere in between, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are talking about curses. That's right. We went over quite a few curses in the first half. Some popular ones got a little bit debunked there, didn't they? We got a lot more information to go in the second half. We're going to talk a lot this half about cursed objects. That's going to be our main focus this half. And through history, there's been a lot of strange stories of cursed objects and cursed tombs and things of that nature. And though the Tutankhamun one we found out wasn't as cursed as we normally hear it to be, there is a story of one that very well may be a lot more cursed. As a matter of fact, this one may have had a large impact on the entire world.
Tamerlane's tomb. Whomsoever opens my tomb shall unleash an invader more terrible than I. Thus read the inscription on the tomb of Tamerlane, a 14th century emperor who killed an estimated 5% of the world's population.
So that would have to be a pretty bad invader to take out more than 5% of the world's population.
The tomb lay in Samarkand, Uzbekistan, and in 1941, Joseph Stalin ordered the body's exhumation. When a team arrived, they were begged by locals not to free Tamerlane, lest it start an invasion. But, ignoring them, on the 21st of June, they opened the casket and removed the skull.
This would show to actually have dire consequences.
True to the curse's word, an even more terrible invader was unleashed. On the 22nd of June 1941, the very next day, Hitler initiated Operation Barbarossa, an all-out attack on the Soviet Union. Stalin lost 5 million military personnel in this attack, the Nazis' most devastating offensive.
So could that have just been a coincidence, or could opening the tomb have sealed the fate for Stalin?
The Lydian Hoard. A treasure trove of 363 gold and silver artifacts lay undisturbed in the tomb of ancient Lydian royalty for 2,500 years in Asia Minor. But in 1965, the doors were blown off by explosives as looters from the local town of Usak, Turkey, plundered the goods and sold them through middlemen to the Metropolitan Museum in New York. It was decades before Turkey recovered them. Rumour has it that anyone who handles the treasure is cursed, and that all 7 of the original looters ended up dead, or worse. Supposedly, one was paralysed, another went mad, another's sons all died in gruesome circumstances involving slit throats and car crashes, and another committed suicide. Ex-director of the Usak Museum himself stole the most revered item, the golden hippocampus brooch, and used it to pay off gambling debts. Now serving 13 years in prison, the once respected archaeologist claims to be just the next victim of the treasure's curse.
Kind of reminds you of that Pirates of the Caribbean movie, right? But we actually find this quite a bit amongst treasures that they're actually cursed.
The Hope Diamond. This is one of the most famous diamonds in the world, a 45.52 carat piece that has been owned by a number of famous people over the years, going right back to King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, who owned it during the French Revolution and their beheadings after. They weren't the only deaths that legend has linked to the diamond though. They say that a tragedy befalls anyone who owns or wears it. Here are some random owners that I've just plucked out from the long list. Jacques Collet bought it and later committed suicide. Prince Ivan Kantinovsky was the next owner before being killed by Russian revolutionists. The original merchant who brought the diamond from India to Paris was later torn to pieces by wild dogs in Constantinople. This list of gore, misery and death just goes on and on. The last person to privately own the diamond was a woman called Evelyn McLean. She had her daughter die of an overdose and her son died in a car crash. Of course, these could all be just random tragic events. Some even say the stories were fabricated to add to the mystique of the diamond. But either way, the blood diamond now sits behind glass at the Smithsonian Museum.
I guess in this case, diamonds were not a girl's best friend. That is definitely one diamond. I don't care how much it's worth. I would not own it. It's not worth risking my life if the curse is true, right? And there's another curse that could be risking your life just for having a seat. That's right. There's one guy who loved his chair so much that he wanted to make sure nobody would ever sit in it again.
Thomas Busby was a thief and murderer who died over 300 years ago. That said, he can still harm you if you're not careful, thanks to a simple curse. One night, Busby and his partner in crime, Daniel Owedi, had an argument over the pair's counterfeit coin business. The fight heated up extra when Owedi made the fatal mistake of sitting in Busby's favorite chair. This prompted Busby to sneak up on Owedi that night and bludgeon him to death. He was quickly found out, arrested, and sentenced to die for his crime. Adding insult to injury, his body was put on display just outside the inn he owned, the one containing his favorite chair. Speaking of that chair, before his death, Busby cursed it, promising pain and agony to anyone who sat on it. Depending on who tells the story, he either did this while sitting in the chair enjoying his last meal, or while angrily shouting as he was being led to the gallows.
He supposedly screamed, "Anyone who dare to sit in this chair for hereforward will die."
Either way, he was deadly serious, as some estimates place the number of people to have sat in Busby's chair and died shortly after at over 60. They range from World War II soldiers who dared sit in the chair only to die in their next mission, to a woman who brushed against the chair and developed a brain tumor. Even the bar's owner throwing the chair into the basement after decades of death didn't stop the chaos. A delivery man went down there and decided the chair looked comfortable enough to sit in. On his way back from the delivery, he lost control of his van, crashed, and died. So finally, in 1978, the bar owner donated the chair to the Thirsk Museum. Even still, the chair is so inviting to those who wish to tempt fate, the curator has to hang it from the ceiling to keep people from sitting on it.
And hung from the ceiling nonetheless, just to ensure nobody can sit in it. And I gotta say, I don't know if I would take that chance, right? Sitting in a chair that may kill me. I don't know. I don't know if it'd do it or not, but I don't want to test the issue, right? There's another object, really famous cursed object you guys might have heard of. Our next case file includes something worse than a seat, but a whole car. That's right. A car that was so cursed that even when it was broken down into smaller pieces, those pieces even managed to cause a lot of damage. Check this case file out.
The most cursed of vehicles isn't a flaming demon motorcycle, but rather an innocent Porsche Spyder. Its first owner, actor James Dean, was also its first victim. On September 23, 1955, he showed off his bastard to fellow actor Alec Guinness, who immediately had a bad feeling about this. He told Dean, "If you get in that car, you'll be found dead in it by this time next week."
And for those that don't know, Guinness is also the person that played Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's right. So if Obi-Wan Kenobi tells me to be careful, I am definitely going to heed that warning just a little bit more than from anyone else, right?
He soon learned just how spot on he could be, as a mere 7 days later, Dean crashed his car and died almost instantly. Killing a beloved actor would have tainted Little Bastard's reputation enough, but this car wasn't done. George Barris, the guy who customized the car for Dean, slipped off the Bastard's trailer and landed badly on a poor mechanic, shattering his leg.
But this was only the beginning.
Barris then stripped the car for parts, selling some to men named Troy McHenry and William Eskrid.
This also is not going to end well.
The two used the Bastard's parts to finish their vehicles and then race them. This was a bad idea, as McHenry crashed into a tree and died, while Eskrid's car rolled over after locking up, severely injuring him.
Surely that's it, right? That's plenty of people who have already been maimed or killed in this. Surely that's all, right?
Another driver who bought two of Bastard's tires was forced off the road when both tires burst at the same time.
And I can tell you, for both tires to burst at the exact same time is highly unlikely and highly improbable in any normal circumstance.
Then there's the story of two thieves who attempted to steal pieces of the Bastard from under Barris's nose. This too was a terrible idea, as both were injured in the bungled burglary. One thief in particular tore his arm up trying to steal the steering wheel.
Not that I condone theft, but those guys paid a little higher price than usual for that particular theft, didn't they?
The Bastard kept terrorizing after being donated to the California Highway Patrol. The garage the CHP placed the car in caught on fire, with the car itself sustaining no damage.
Is it just me, or is this sounding a lot like that car out of that Stephen King novel, right?
Then, while on display at a school, the car fell and broke a child's hip. Finally, after the car kept rolling off of transport trucks, in one case crushing the truck driver, the CHP apparently did what George Barris should have done years ago. They destroyed the car and made it disappear.
That's funny. It said the car continually rolled off of transport trucks. That, again, is not normal, right? And we keep hearing these stories over and over about these different objects that end up hurting or killing their owners, these cursed objects. And it makes you wonder, after you hear so many of these, if there really is something to this, right?
The Koh-i-Noor diamond. Just like the blood diamond we talked about earlier, this is a very expensive, very famous diamond that has been blamed for a number of deaths over the years. They say there's records of this diamond going back 5,000 years in the Middle East. The curse was first mentioned in 1306 though. The 105 carat diamond came with a Hindu text that read, "He who owns this diamond will own the world, but will also know all its misfortunes. Only God or a woman can wear it with impunity." So there you go. For any of you females watching, the curse won't affect you.
There are a lot of misfortunes in this world, and to experience all of them would be mind-blowingly awful.
It was stolen by the British in the 1800s. Queen Victoria had it cut up into small diamonds, some of which can be seen in the coronation crown of the Queen Mother. Is this a nod to the fact that a male can never wear the diamond? Perhaps. Do we have any volunteers watching to test out the theory?
You know what? Once again, I think I'll pass just in case it is real. I know we have a lot of sports fans that listen to this broadcast, so I've got something just for you guys. How about some sports curses, right?
The Socceroos Witch Doctor Curse. To ensure they won against Rhodesia in the 1970 Mexico World Cup qualifiers, the Australian National Association football team hired a witch doctor to hex the competition.
I'm not sure if that's actually considered cheating or not, but that is a heck of a length to go to ensure you're going to win a game, right?
The Socceroos won the game, but were hexed themselves when they couldn't pay the fee.
So they get what they asked for, they win the game, and then they refuse to pay the guy. That's not gonna end well.
Not only did the Aussie team fail to qualify that year, they also failed to qualify for every World Cup between 1975 and 2005.
From that moment that he put the curse on, everything went wrong for the team. We took 38 hours to get to Tel Aviv. That's the witch doctor. We played 21 hours later without 3 of our best players who all were suddenly sick. That's the witch doctor.
Moral of the story, never cheat a witch doctor. He will curse you.
The Curse of Marty McSorley. During 1993's Stanley Cup Finals, LA King Marty McSorley was sent to the penalty box for an illegally curved stick, which helped the Montreal Canadiens win the game and eventually that year's Stanley Cup. However, some believe Habs coach Jacques Demers had the King's sticks secretly checked out, which would have been pretty unsportsmanlike. True or not, Montreal hasn't won a cup since, and neither has any other Canadian team.
Wow, I don't know what the turnout was this year who ended up taking the cup, because I'll be honest with you, I don't follow sports, but if there has been a change, guys, I know there's some of you out there in the chat that watch, let me know there.
The Madden Curse.
Now, this here's a curse that, whether you're into sports or not, you may find it quite intriguing.
Electronic Arts had a hit on their hands with Madden NFL. In fact, it's their best-selling sports video game series. But in 1999, the company dropped Madden from the cover of their game in favor of a current star from the league.
This would actually prove to have dire consequences for those players.
Ever since, people have been associating the setbacks, injuries, and other bad luck the cover boys experienced with their appearance on the game.
Wouldn't that be like the worst award to win ever, right? If you get featured on the cover of this game, your season's pretty much ruined, right? I would not want to win that award of being featured on that cover.
The Curse of the Colonel.
This is one that I actually just recently heard about, so I'm really happy that it's actually in this.
Nobody does chicken like KFC, and nobody can put a curse on you quite like Colonel Sanders. While celebrating the Hanshin Tigers' 1985 win of the Japan Championship Series, fans of the baseball team allegedly dumped a statue of the KFC founder into the river. The Tigers then placed last in the league 10 times between that fateful year and 2003.
This goes to show you don't mess with the Colonel. But what do you guys think? Do you think curses are real? Do you think there are objects out there that we had better not mess with? Do you think there are tombs that we had better not enter? Do you think there are curses that could make us into werewolves, into vampires, into all these different cursed creatures? Or is it all just imagination and in our heads and it's just all coincidence? The bad things just happen. In the end, ladies and gentlemen, you be the judge. We got to close it out. That's right, that's it for this episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Wednesday, November 4th, 2020. We really appreciate everybody being here, whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat. We appreciate you choosing us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's episode might be over, but don't you worry. We will be taking you to the airwaves again tomorrow night with another brand new episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show. That's right. Tomorrow we're going to talk about making a deal with the devil. That has got to be the ultimate curse, right? Making a deal with the devil for your eternal soul. Then when we close out on Friday night, the other animal of radio here on the network, our buddy AJ the Ripon Rabbit, takes to the airwaves, and he's going to be talking Friday night. Well, it's a special announcement, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned for Friday night's show. He has something to talk about that night. Then on Saturday, he's going to be talking about mysterious signals. That's right. Mysterious signals that are coming from space, I'm assuming. These fast radio bursts, these mysterious signals nobody can figure out. Then on Sunday, he's going to discuss delusion. That's right. Are you deluded? Do you know somebody who has delusions? They might want to listen to this show. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to close out the weekend here on Ripon Common Sense Radio. That's right. But the weekend never really ends, right? over at the RiponRabbitHole.com, you can always pretend it's the weekend when we're not on. Over at RiponRabbitHole.com. You can find all of our archived episodes. So if you've missed an episode, definitely go back over there and check those out. You're also going to find my favorite hangout, the 24/7 VIP Backstage Lounge. That's right. You go over to the 24/7 Backstage Lounge on the RiponRabbitHole.com. Scroll about halfway down that page, you're going to find the VIP entrance. That's right. Hook up your camera and microphone, hit the OK button, and you can turn those off just as soon as you get in there and hang out with us in the text. That's right. That's where I'm going to go just a couple minutes after this show is over. That's right. Also, while you're over there, make sure you check out our groups page called the Rabbit's Hole. That's right. Over there, you're going to find the Dark Wolf's Den Show Topics and Suggestions group. You're going to find AJ the Ripon Rabbit's Rabbit Hole group. You're going to find Juanito 1975's Lucid Dreaming group, and so very much more. So I would suggest going over there. I like hanging out over there a lot, and, you know, it's always a fun time. Ladies and gentlemen, with that said, my name is Jerry Hicks, and on behalf of Walt House, Chick Mandela Effect, Michael Musco, AJ the Ripon Rabbit, and everybody at Ripon Common Sense Radio, we thank you for being here. And remember, until tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, stay awake, but dare to dream. How? Yeah. Good night, everybody.
Unlocked and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner, is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner, is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.